It's really a lot of unknowns. You know, I've looked at the map, we've studied the map, but you don't really know until you're out there. Canadian Death Race is a race in Grande Cache, Alberta. It's 118 kilometers with 17,000 feet of elevation gain and loss. So if we look at it totals, it's probably about 34,000 of elevation gain and loss. So today, officially week 12, day 1 of training, which sounds crazy, you know, started on a whim 12 weeks ago, and just this has turned into my life for the last 12 weeks. In this process, before I started the actual training, I was doing about 35 miles a week, which is 50K, which I thought was a big deal. And once I got my new program and ramped it up to 50, I got pretty comfortable with 50, and then went up to 60, 70, and now, to be honest, 50 sounds pretty easy for the week, so 80 kilometers in perspective with 10,000 feet of elevation. So it just opened my eyes to what's possible. If you train properly and you just open your mind to bigger goals, and again, doing this with a very busy schedule, making time, you can find time if you make it a priority. So we took off for the adventure to Grande Cache, Alberta. I worked in Edmonton, Alberta for 6 years, so I was familiar with Alberta, but we hopped in my truck, my old pickup truck, me and DJ, and we headed out on this adventure of the unknown, really. I signed up for this race and didn't really know what I was getting myself into. I knew it was a tough race, but I really don't do a lot of research before races. I kind of just get ready and wing it. So we hopped in the truck in Kamloops and we started heading out with the goal of reaching Hinton, Alberta. We stopped in Jasper, Alberta, which is an amazing, beautiful place. Saw some wildlife on the way. We picked up some overpriced food in Jasper. I think we did takeout. We got turned away at one restaurant because we weren't dressed properly. And then I spent $100 on ribs and a salad. So that was Jasper, but a beautiful town, love it. So I booked a hotel in advance to stay in Hinton, Alberta, and we got to Hinton about 10:30 p.m. Turns out, my wife doesn't know this, so she's gonna find out on this film. Turns out when we looked up the location of the hotel, it was 2.5 hours backwards from where we were. Yeah, we had a moment of deciding if we were gonna sleep in the truck, which DJ was for and I was kind of against. And so we ended up finding a hotel, like Twin Peaks Hotel in Alberta. And the interesting thing is we went in there and, you know, as being a recovering maniac, alcoholic, drinker, there's a bar attached to the reception area, and we poked our heads in there, and there were slot machines, gambling, which I loved. There was booze. There was an ATM machine right outside the bar. So in my former life, this could have been a trap. Like I could have just forgot about the death race and just spent 4 days at the bar. So, and then we were set out for the adventure the next day and headed, I think, an hour and a half from Hinton to Grande Cache. And we rolled into Grande Cache, had a look around. Again, we were planning on camping. There's a thing called Tent City for the race, and we had the setup, but to be honest, we weren't set up that well, and DJ kind of hinted at getting a hotel room. We started calling around. There was like 6 or 7 booked full. They told us to book a year in advance. Of course, I waited till the day before, like in typical fashion. We actually found one. We got a room probably 2 blocks away from the start of the race, so we settled into the hotel, which was amazing. There's a grocery store close by. I mean, my big things were coffee. I love coffee. DJ loves coffee. Grocery store for supplies, and then close to the Grande Cache Rec Center, where we went in at 1 p.m. the expo opened. So we went there around 1:30 just to check out the expo, pick up the race pack, and just see the energy was amazing. A lot of people, when you think about the day before an ultra, people have spent 3 to 6 months getting ready for this one day. So there's a lot of anticipation, there's a lot of nerves. And so it's really exciting to see people, you know, coming to fruition with their actual plans of what they've been getting ready for. So there's 5 transition areas in the race. So we made 5 different packs full of trail mix, we had bananas, we had bars, we had fruit, and we had drinks all set up, so I made 5 of those bags. So the goal is we want to do 300 calories an hour. These are way more than 300 calories, so deep into the race I'm going to need heavy calories, so we're going to be packing 5 of these. So we got Reese's, we got Heavenly Hunks, and we got trail mix too from Costco. Smarties, so if you look at the calories on this, man, that's dense. 270 calories for a third of a cup. So that's probably 2 cups worth. So that's probably, we're looking at 1,500 calories right there in that bag. And so we're gonna do 5 of those. And we're gonna put honey, jam, and peanut butter on those. So we're gonna make sandwiches for the bag and also for the pack. Then we got our salts. The goal for me is to do 2 of these probably every hour, maybe every half hour. And then we have, let's see, we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So we got 20 bars. So we're gonna try and do a bar an hour. We got another 10 to 15 gels. And then we got apples, so some fresh fruit. And then there'll be tons of stuff on the road, and then DJ will be cooking soup. So yeah, I think we got it covered. You know, it's funny, we're getting close now, and I can feel the energy coming. Like I've been pretty quiet, pretty idle, and I just feel like I'm coming alive now. It's the night before, probably gonna have a shitty sleep tonight, but it doesn't matter anymore. Now it's time to get to work, time to release the energy. So I'm getting super hyped, getting all my gear together, and we're about to make it happen. All right, so we're outside at Grand Cache, about 10 minutes. We got our roadside grill here. We got some pasta, we got some veggies. We got the view of the river here. And yeah, we got a race bib picked up. Now we're just waiting, killing time, fueling, getting ready to roll. For the race tomorrow, it's really a lot of unknowns. You know, I've looked at the map, we've studied the map, but you don't really know until you're out there. So I'm just gonna try and take it easy. In the past, I've been guilty, like most runners, of going out too hard. So the biggest thing we've taken away so far is don't go out too hard. Get to, you know, more than halfway and see how you're feeling and not blowing up too early. So I'm really focused on trying to start slow and just enjoy the process. All right guys, walking to the start line. Love you, Bowl, love all of you. Thinking of you guys. You guys are gonna get me through this thing today, so have fun in Portland. I'll be thinking of you. Send me some good wishes. Love you. We slowly started the process of packing everything up and heading over to the start line. The cool thing about the hotel is we were 2 blocks away, literally 5 minutes, so it's not like we had to worry about being late. Rolled up to the start line, about 15 minutes. I don't like standing there a long time. Some people like to get there super early. For me personally, 15 minutes, so I don't have to sit there and think. And the anticipation, I feel like I was smiling, I was excited, and I had, because of the taper, you know, I tapered a week going into the race, I had a ton of energy and was just ready to roll. So, and everyone around was excited. It was like really well organized, so there was no weirdness about where to go, when to start. Everything was dialed in, so all you had to do was show up ready to roll and excited to go. So leg 1 is the downtown jaunt. So, I mean, it's a nice way to start the race. I think it's rolling hills for about 16 kilometers, and talking with my coach and my own strategy in the past, you know, I started racing 5K, 10K, half marathon, marathon, 50K. And one of the problems I've had, and many runners have, is going out too hot, too fast. You know, I've had half marathons where I ran, you know, you want to run a negative split. And so all the runners will understand a negative split. So I was really focused on going out slow, slower than I actually felt comfortable going. But I knew for such a long race, that's what I wanted to do. So we started at the start line, and I didn't watch my watch too closely. I was doing like 13 to 15 minute miles, which is fairly slow, but for an ultra, for 24-hour ultra, that seems to be right.
All right, so we're about 7 miles in. Feeling pretty good, trying to take it easy. Beautiful day. Lots of people out here. Yeah, just trying to go slow. Gotta remember this is a long ass day. So anyway, so far so good. 2 miles till first checkpoint, and then we'll go from there.
Once we got comfortable and got into the pace, it was a nice way to start the race. Came into the first transition, like no real issues in the first leg. The biggest thing for me was I was trying to do 300 to 400 calories of food per hour. I was doing tailwind, water, and so I had my Solomon pack. So I had tailwind up front, I had the camelback, or sorry, the bladder in the back. So I was trying to do my water. I was focused on getting, like I said, 300 to 400 calories per hour. So I was out there for roughly 2.5 hours for the first leg.
This is aid station number 1. We're out here at the truck, feeling pretty good. We're out here, I think it took us about, what was it, 2 hours? I'm gonna take a look right now. Yeah, just under 2 hours, heart rate's at 110. So we wanna stay in that 130 zone 2 range, so nice and chill. Banana, we're gonna pack up, and I'm on the road.
One of my favorite things about this whole race is my crew, DJ, and the filmmaker who's doing this film, the jack of all trades. When I ran to the first aid station, there he was with a big smile on his face. And I think for a race of this magnitude and this hard, it's super important to have people that are cheering for you and are actually genuinely excited for you. So, and for me mentally, just to have a familiar face who has all my gear and was stoked that I had made it and I was still alive. So that was pretty cool, running into DJ. And he was organized the first transition. There's a lot of, like, it's fairly busy with a lot of cars. So he got there early and was set up, and we rolled in there and I got my food. He had to slow me down, like he had a stopwatch. So the goal was 10 minutes in that aid station. I think I asked him to leave after 2.5 minutes, and he's like, man, you need to chill out. So yeah, I had to chill out. I was still pretty fired up. So we took the full 10 minutes. Didn't feel like I needed it at the time, but of course, in retrospect, these things all add up, and I feel like the 10 minutes was a nice little buffer to get my heart rate back down, get calm and focused on the next leg, which was fairly challenging. So we get out of checkpoint 1, feeling pretty strong, head out to checkpoint 2. Section 2 is a little bit sneaky because from my understanding is Mount Hamel is the biggest, toughest leg of the race. And so you could be tricked into thinking like this leg 2 was not that big of a deal. But fortunately I got some good advice and people said, no, you gotta watch out. I think there was about 6,000 feet of elevation gain and loss, so that's huge. And this wasn't like gradual climbs, this was big climbs and big drops. So fortunately in my training, what we tried to do, what my coach set out to do was I was averaging anywhere from 8,000 to 12,000 feet of elevation gain throughout the whole week. So I did a lot of climbing, and sometimes I went over that. I love to climb, I'm built for climbing, and that paid off big time in this leg. I felt like super strong on the climbs, and the tricky part again here was it was hot. Like this is the start of the day, so it was, you know, 10:30 a.m., 11 a.m., maybe 30 degrees, 27 to 30 degrees. So, and I sweat a lot, so I had to be really cognizant of fluids. I was doing 2 salt tabs an hour, maybe more. So salt was important, electrolytes was important, and then the climbing was brutal, super hard. And then going downhill was actually even more challenging. For me, downhill is harder than climbing. So some super steep drop-offs, and people were struggling there, passing people, and just helping other people along. But I mean, I love section 2. I think it was good. And I think it was a good way to get really, now you feel like you're racing and you're really into the race just because it's so challenging. And actually I remember getting to one of the high points and there was an aid station, super friendly people up there, and talked to a few other racers. So yeah, leg 2 was amazing. Challenging is like, if you're gonna do this race, just be aware, leg 2 is a killer.
End of leg 2, look at this view. It's freaking incredible. Feeling pretty good. Lots of good people out here. We're enjoying the shit out of this.
So we go to transition 2. Again, DJ, smiling DJ was there. He was ready to roll. This was in downtown Grand Cache, which is a bit of a mind mess up because you end up right back at the start line. So a lot of racers, myself included, with a point-to-point race, you don't like to see the same spots more than once. So going back into town kind of feels like you're starting again. But again, it was well stocked, lots of support there. Last leg was a bit of a grind. There was a lot of ups, a lot of downs. Felt super strong on the ups and downs. Like they call it butt slide. There's a lot of people sliding all over the place. I fell. It was good times though. Legs felt strong. I think the biggest thing is getting enough salt and enough food in, so I have no cramping issues. That was my biggest fear. I mean, it's still early, so that could happen, but so far so good with the cramping. As long as I don't cramp mentally, I'm dialed in, man. I am dialed. So we head out into leg three. Leg three, from studying the map, is rolling hills. I found it really beautiful, to be honest. It was right close to the river for most of that leg, and there was meeting a lot of people along the way. And my pack, when we loaded the bladder back in, my hose got twisted. So about quarter way into that leg, I went for a drink of water and I had nothing, got air. So, but the way Ultra is and the people in Ultra, I knew I just had to find a friendly face, and I found another runner. I don't have his name, I wish I did, but another runner pulled the bladder out, we straightened out the hose, and so that was good. It was a big concern, when early in these races, if you have an issue like you miss water, that's when issues down the road and 10 hours later could start catching up to you. So we reeled that in. I enjoyed the views, took a couple selfies along the way. All right, so we're in the middle of leg three. Feeling pretty good. This is an important one because we got to make the cutoff for 7:45 p.m. before we can go into leg four. So if you don't make that cutoff, you're done. So we're at about 5 p.m. So I got 2 hours 45 to get there. I think we're gonna get there, dude. And then it's Mount Hamel, which is climbing, but they say if you make it to the cutoff, you should be all right. So we'll see if that's true. Look at this, beautiful in here. All right, we're having fun. Feet are sore, but otherwise no complaints. All right, talk soon. All right, we're in the middle of leg three. Look at this beautiful water. Outstanding, feeling pretty good. Just drank some river water, it was awesome. And again, I rolled into transition and I was getting used to seeing DJ out and about, and to be honest, he was staring off into the distance, dreaming about something, and so I had to yell at him to get him back into the game. So one of the things we were trying to do along the course is, like, you have cell service that's spotty, so I try and text him, and of course I was off by probably 5 miles every single time, so his time of waiting. And so when you have a crew, it's important that you have a patient crew, because it would have been a nightmare if he was really anxious. So, but he was good. I yelled at him, we got organized. And one of the things that start weighing on you during this race is the cutoff times. So there's certain cutoff times that you have to make. And a lot of people, when I was talking to other runners, were really concerned about hitting these cutoffs. So fortunately, I think we were ahead of the cutoffs by probably an hour, 2 hours for most. So we got into that leg there before Mount Hamel, and I think the cutoff was 7:45. I rolled in at 6. So again, took 2 minutes. I was with my friend Chris, who's a military guy, Navy guy. I hope he sees this. We kind of were chasing each other, and so he set up right close to us, and so we chatted. I tried to eat some of the food at the aid station, but to be honest, I was really happy with the setup we had, so I got into a rhythm with the bananas, and I was drinking Coke, which I don't normally drink, lots of sweets. And I think ultra runners, like, you kind of, DJ was joking about it being Halloween. So I would go into the Halloween bag and eat Smarties and all this stuff, which I don't normally eat. So, I mean, we find out in the next leg here, I started having stomach issues because I honestly think I started just taking in too much sugar that my body wasn't used to. So, but we had a good time because from what I understand, if you make it to this checkpoint before the cutoff with some time, you should be able to finish as long as nothing major happens. So in the back of my mind, I was secretly thinking like, holy crap, I might actually get this done. So it was a pretty exciting time to be in there. Again, we were on the beach chair. We didn't have a very complicated setup. We had a beach chair. We had my laptop bag. So where the computer goes, we had tailwind. Where the binder and everything goes, we had our snacks. So all we had was the beach chair, which you'll see in the video, and the snacks, and that seemed to work out good. And Mount Hamel is looming in your head as you're sitting there because it's massive. I think it's 12K to the top. And so it's pretty intimidating. The leg actually took longer. I think one of the keys to my success on this race was not really thinking too far ahead. I was thinking checkpoint to checkpoint. So I wasn't really thinking how long I'd be out there, but it's overwhelming to think of the amount of work that's upcoming, especially this late in a race, like 60K deep. I was already out there for, 10 hours? So you got to think about, like, man, I got to do another 10 minimum, probably 12 to 14 more hours. So that's a lot to swallow as you head into the darkness.
Yeah, top of the world, baby. Whew.
So we leave checkpoint number 4 and we start heading up Mount Hamel, which, I mean, is pretty serious. It's you know, you start climbing immediately. It was a little bit of single track coming out, and there's some jockeying for position with the other racers, and I think people are starting to hurt at this point. So it's an interesting time, you know, we start climbing, and I just loved it. I love the slugfest. The reason I signed up for this race is because I really wanted to challenge myself, both physically and mentally. So I was actually, in a sick way, looking forward to the harder sections of this race because I wanted to see if my preparation was good and if mentally I had what it took to get it done. So as weird as it sounds, I was actually more excited about the hard part of the course than the easier part. So anyways, we start getting up Mount Hamel, and at this time I started having some stomach issues. So I, to be honest, hadn't went pee much, I haven't used the porta potty that much, so I'd taken on all these calories and nothing was coming out. So it was sloshing around in my stomach, so that became, I mean, if I'm being honest, in the grand scheme of things, was more uncomfortable than an issue. But if I had anything to complain about, that would probably be it. And so we start climbing the first section of Mount Hamel, then we get to an aid station, and it's kind of like a false sense of relief because you get to the aid station, there's candy. Actually, a really helpful volunteer helped me repack my jacket because DJ did a shitty job and just stuffed it in the back. So she rolled it up nice and tight. She helped me with my pack. So again, the volunteers were amazing. They knew the course and knew what was to come. So that was like a false summit. We did a little bit of downhill, and then you see Mount Hamel, and it's, you know, back and forth, and it feels like you're never going to get to the top of that damn mountain. So, but one thing that counteracts the climbing was the views. The views were amazing. Just, it feels like you're on the top of the world. So, all right, we're up at the top of the mountain here. Check the view. We got Chris and Chris behind me here. There they are. All right, here we go. I think we went 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers to pick up this coin for the Grim Reaper, and then you end up back. Like I said, not my favorite thing to do, ending back where you started. So I had my coin, back to the tent, and then we start the descent down off Mount Hamel. And this is when it starts to get dark. So we get the headlamp on, and I made really good friends with the headlamp. I think I was on that headlamp for 7 hours. So it's like a 4-foot square, you know, maybe 6-foot square you're stuck in for a long, long time. And coming off Mount Hamel was a hard pack road, which for me, being a bigger guy, is not my favorite thing to run. So mentally that was a bit of a challenge, just sucking it up and going downhill. So yeah, we went downhill off there. We grinded that out, went through the forest, saw a lot of cool people out there, and then we get down back into checkpoint 5. Yeah, so the weird thing about being on the headlamp is there would be sections of the race 30 minutes to an hour, maybe even 2 hours without seeing another person, then all of a sudden you see this bobbing light in the distance or coming up behind you, depending if people are passing or you're catching people. And it got pretty quiet out there. People weren't talking much. Kind of like, hey, I saw a lady throwing up, saw people lying on the side of the trail, offered help to everyone. So people are in the hurt locker at this stage of the race. And so it's interesting to see where people are at mentally and physically. But I just kept working, and I was keen on getting to checkpoint number 5.
All right, we're coming up to the top of Mount Hamel here. Look at this view. Whew. Just mountains forever. Just had another little aid station. The crew, the staff here is awesome. Super friendly. I'll get you guys again when we get to the top. It's a long climb, man. I think it's 10 miles up or 8. I don't want to overestimate, but we're moving, baby.
Again, DJ, being my guy, was fired up to see me, and I think we both knew when I got into checkpoint 5 that I was actually going to finish this race unless something catastrophic happened. So getting into that checkpoint was pretty sweet. But I roll into the next checkpoint on the side of the highway there. DJ was ready, happy, and we both had a sense of like, man, this is really in the realm of, because when you're out there, I have to be honest, like mentally, I never thought about quitting, not even for 1 second, but things can happen. There's branches, there's trees, there's creeks. You could break an ankle, you could roll an ankle, you could get cramps. Anything can happen at any moment. So mentally, I was there, but physically, getting there without injury and no real issues I was like, holy crap, this is gonna happen. To be honest, my stomach wasn't taking on food, like regular food. I had to try to gel in the middle of that leg, and I actually threw it up immediately. So I had a nice little barf session on the side of the course, which was gross, and then I just kept running.
Dude, that was tough. Gotta be honest, it was beautiful at the top. There's just a long, drawn-out downhill. That was a bit of a grind, but and then we had the headlamp, so it was dark. Otherwise, awesome, outstanding.
Let's hear it for these runners. They're working hard tonight.
We're into the final leg for, I think, 22 kilometers. So now we're into the last leg, and this is starting to feel real. Like, this is feeling like, man, all this hard work. I actually got emotional a few times during the race. I spent an hour in the forest, I forgot to mention, just talking to myself, just saying, this is why we get up at 4 a.m. This is why we do night runs. This is why we train. This is why we sacrifice. So I had my own little pump-up session for about an hour in the forest by myself. And now it's like, this is actually happening. So we get out there, the leg was not too bad after what we'd been through the whole day. To be honest, you could have thrown anything at me at that stage, it didn't matter. The only kick in the butt was, my watch died at, I think, 68 miles. So you get, like, I was tracking in miles, so I think it's 74 total. So 68, my watch died, and I didn't feel the familiar ticking over of 1 mile. And I was like, man, this is the longest mile ever. Looked down, my watch was dead. So I went to my phone, and we're out there, and another young guy I ran into, we figured there was 3K left, and we ran into a guy, and he told us there was 5K uphill, which was a kick in the junk at that stage of the race. But again, you're so deep at this point, it didn't really matter. They could have done anything, it didn't matter. So I ran, hiked that 5K, and then rolled into town and met up with DJ. He was a couple blocks out, and at this point, to be honest, I was crying and could barely breathe. So I was doing like this choked up crying, and just crying because it's like, man, I actually did it. And the work paid off, and I was thinking of my family, my kids, and everything we had sacrificed to get to this point. and you know, just incredible feeling to say you're going to do something. This is what I think a lot of people miss in life, is saying you're going to do something and actually following through on it and doing the work that needs to be done. Not just saying it and let it go away, say it and actually do it and execute. And I can't think of a better feeling of executing on a massive plan, doing the steps that need to be done and actually accomplishing the goal. That's my whole mission with my coaching business, with my life, and that's how I try and be authentic in the world. So again, DJ's chasing me with the camera and we're running into town, and I could see the finish, and it's like, again, this is real, this is happening. There was a great guy at the end, gave me my little coin, and more tears and more relief, and you know, DJ and I hugged it out. I went for some snacks, and just again, the sense of accomplishment, the sense of relief, everything we had done worked. You know, I finished in 22 hours and 27 minutes. That's my longest run previous was probably 6.5 hours. So I did 3.5 times what my longest distance in a race before. So if you put that in perspective, the amount of time on your feet, the struggling, the eating, getting everything right, there's so many things that go wrong. So just knowing that everything got done, and just a sense of joy and being proud of getting this big goal done. And yeah, it was an amazing moment.
That shit's intense.
All right, let's do this.
Get the speaker box loud, hitting that stuff till you hearing that sound.